Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Today is Monday, September 20th, and this is our general finance meeting. So I will chair until the elected chief is able to join us. Our first item is identification of media. Is there anybody on the line? Seeing none, we'll move right along. Changes, deletions, and adoption of today's agenda. Do I have any additions? Deletions? Can I have someone move today's agenda? Moved by Audrey. Do I have a seconder? Sherry Land?
I'll second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, let's move right along to the adoption of the general finance minutes of August 16th. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review them. Is there any questions in regards to those minutes? Hearing none. Do I have somebody to move to the August 16th finance minutes? Moved by Audrey. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing none, seeing no hands, motion is carried. Okay, so we're going to move right along to the Building and Infrastructure Committee recommendations. We're going to need a new mover for these. So if somebody's willing to move and read out the motion, that would be a great. Audrey?
I move that the Building and Infrastructure Committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to approve payment to Sierra Bridge Inc. Progress payments number 6 dated August 31st, 2021 in the amount of $340,457.53 for the replacement bridge number 7 project. Source of funds identified as a combination of Indigenous Services Canada and the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario. I so move.
I second that, Hazel.
Questions? Councillor Johnson?
Just for clarity, this is one of the payments in the series, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful if that was stated in the motion as well, just that it's like payment number 4 of 5, or just for public record. Thanks.
Well, it says it's payment number 6.
Yeah. It's in the motion. Thanks, Wendy. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Favor.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Seeing none, motion is carried. Recommendation number 2.
Can we do a second reading on that, or is that go to?
Oh, you're correct. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So Audrey, you waive second reading?
Yes, I do, Michelle.
Thank
I second
you.
Hazel. Yes.
Thanks,
I second.
Hazel. All in favor?
Favor.
Anybody opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Now we'll move on to recommendation number 2. Go ahead, Audrey.
I move that the Building and Infrastructure Committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to support the 2021 application to the Independent Electricity System Operators Indigenous Community Energy Plan Program in the amount of $25,000.
I second.
Thanks, ladies. Anybody have questions in regards to this recommendation number 2? Okay, we'll go to vote. All in favor?
Favor.
Anybody opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Waive second reading.
I move.
Audrey?
I second Hazel.
Thanks, Hazel. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Waiving a second reading has been moved. Recommendation number 3.
I move that the Building and Infrastructure Committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to support the 2021 application to the Independent Electricity System Operator for the Education and Capacity Building Program in the amount of $125,000. I so move.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
Okay, thank you, Hazel. Questions? Hearing no questions, seeing no hands, all in favor?
Weaver,
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, seeing no hands, motion is carried. And can we have the waiving a second reading?
I move.
I second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Weaver,
Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, so those are proposals that are going forward. Number 6. So Mike, I will give this over to you as this is coming directly to full council.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So this is to support the project that we were approved for funding under the Six Nations of the Grand River Economic Development Trust Fund. And it is to extend water main on the section of road on Onondaga Road between 4th and 5th line. So we have until the end of the calendar year, or I know the trust likes us to expend the funds before December 1st, 2020. So I had asked the committee because when we tendered it, we had to do some addendums. So it kind of put us out of the timeline for the B&I committee. So the committee just said to put it on the general finance agenda, which we did because the tender results came in last Thursday. Well, the Thursday before last, but then they need to be audited by the consultant. And then the consultant recommends award, and they recommended award to Evertex Utility Solutions in the amount of $1,061,000 approximately. It is well within the budget that we've been granted from the trust. So just looking for approval so we can make that award and then move expeditiously to complete it before the deadline of the trust.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I have a few questions, but before we go forward, do I have a motion to move this? And then we'll open to questions.
I'll move. It's Hazel.
Moved by Hazel, second by Helen. Questions? Wendy? And then Audrey.
So I know we've talked about water and the water line for a long time, and people are anxious to hear about the connection and what's happening. So I understand that this is work that's ongoing, but how does this connect to and tie in the overall plan to get water to households in the community? Is there a connection, or are we keeping this as a separate process and still working on the bigger plan for water extension and connection?
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, thank you. So the two processes are moving in parallel. So what happened is phase 1 water main extensions were to the outlying federal schools and United Business Park. Those were completed. Phase 2 now is between 3rd and 6th line and Seneca and Cuga Road. And the way that we had that designed is because we knew the price tag on that was roughly $32 million. And honestly, we know the trust is between $1 and $3 million per year, depending on how they do. We wanted to make sure that it was scalable. So we had the consultant engineer design it per road section and then prioritize a road section based on a technical scoring matrix. So there's that piece. So we're progressing. This is the second priority in that. And then the next priority would be Cuga Road between 3rd and 4th. But, in parallel, what we're doing for the water servicing strategies, we're working with local consultants in order to determine, I guess, almost like a funding program for water servicing. And similar with the same thought in that there's an assessment process and a criteria to meet for the community. And I understand that we'll be looking at bringing a presentation to council in that regard, likely next month, because we're just wrapping that up. So those two are in parallel, and we do hear definitely the priority and need from the community for that.
Okay, go ahead, Wendy, and then I'll go to Audrey.
I guess, could some of this money could it have been used for doing some hookups to homes? And I guess on our priority ranking, it appears because it follows the same suit as paving, right? The same roads get prioritized and other roads get left out. That's the way the paving works. And I mean, you're lucky if you live in those sections. But so we're doing the water extension in the same manner. And, you know, there's whole households in the community that will always be left out because we'll never quite get to them. So, and I know so many people are waiting to hook up to water still. We've not dealt with that. So, you know, I hear what you're saying, Mike, in terms of the parallel direction, but we don't have those solutions yet to homeowners who are on existing water lines. So anyway, hoping to see a little bit more on that.
Thanks, Wendy. Audrey?
I have just two quick questions, Mike. One is it the same contractor doing the extension? And the other one, has the prices for community hookups, has it dropped in any shape in the last year, 2 years?
In regards to the first question, so what we need to do is we need to go through an open and competitive procurement process. So we posted on a website, a procurement website that's Ontario wide. So it was a local contractor that got the last one, but it's actually, you know, it's a contractor from outside the community that completed the recent Credit First Nation water main expansion. So that's this vendor here. So it's not the same one. And sorry, what was the second question there? Oh, the hookups. Sorry. So I can't really comment on it because we don't see that anymore as far as what homeowners pay. But when we were seeing it, it was in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000 per connection. Are the numbers that we saw, and that was 2019, I believe, when we were looking at that.
And that depends on how far your house is from the road. One of the criteria.
Sure, and then whether it's a crossing or not, it adds a little bit to it. So it's all situational, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay, Mike. Oh, I see Helen. Go ahead, Helen.
Well, if you remember, that Johnson guy, can't think of his name, works for A6N. What's his name, Mike?
Randy?
Andy Johnson came to council with 3 options to help people get water lines hooked up to their house, and we never did anything with it. We never picked an option. We never did anything. We need to look at that, and that was to help people get hooked up. 3 options he presented. So that needs to
Ellen?
come back, and we need to look at that.
Helen, and that's my understanding of what Mike just talked about. Wendy asked the question of where's that overall plan? Because we've been given options. It's my understanding as of June.
I don't know. Is that what Mike you're working on, Mike? Those options that Randy presented?
Not
Or is that
necessarily
something different you're doing.
It's one and the same, really. It's a program to assist homeowners to get connections based on certain
Oh,
criteria.
okay.
So it's one and the same. It addresses the same issue.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Helen. Mike, Wendy asked the first question that I was going to ask about the overall plan, so that's in the works. I just wanted to know, this was asked in June as well as last BNI meeting. When is the communication going out to community that they can do hookups on their own? They don't have to go through the company that was under the contract. I thought that was cool.
We're working on that now. So we've actually developed a pamphlet to make it as easy and understandable as possible what the process is. And now we're actually just working to get those forms fillable with online on the website to make it even more convenient, so people don't have to physically come into the office, you know, especially now. But we're moving through that, and hopefully by the end of this week we can push something out to the community.
Okay, my next comment or question is, since we're only starting this connection, have we been granted an extension? Because I read that we only have until December 2021. And so I anticipate that this is going to take a lot longer than the next 3 months.
So the completion date in the contract when we tendered it out was November 26, 2021. So just as long. That's why it was important to get this tabled, because they wanted approval within 2 weeks, and we'll be well within that if we get approval today. So it'll be, per the contract and the terms, it'll be done before December 2021.
And then my last question then is, I guess this is more for Darren, looking at a policy revision, because I read that we always go for the lowest bidder. We know we've talked about this for a couple years now, and when is that policy coming forward? Because I don't want, us to be again having change orders coming forward back to BNI. So that's something, maybe just a reminder to Darren, if that could come forward very soon.
Yeah, Michelle, it's Darren. Yeah, there was we've begun reviewing the tendering policy. I know there was a meeting last week, and there's ongoing meetings to review that in more detail. Mike, apologies for not attending last week, but I do know that that's ongoing now, and all those considerations are part of that review.
Michelle,
Okay.
it's Hazel.
Hazel? Okay, 1 second. Thanks, Darren. Go ahead, Hazel.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Mike, if well, it's for all of us really to think about. With all of the water lines, I know that it's growing quickly, where water lines are being installed here and there on a reserve. But I guess the fact will always be like how many people are being hooked up. And in order to make that happen sooner and give people some sort of a break to hook up their water, because everybody wants that, can't there be some kind of a program that'll say for example, in October, say October 15th, if you set a date where people can all get hooked up who want to, and it will be a flat rate assigned, say like 2,000 instead of the 4, 5, and 6 amounts, and don't charge the people for going under that road. I still disagree that people need to pay that under the road amount, because they don't own under the road. Nobody owns under the road. It's just by luck. If you built on the right side of the road, then you're not having to pay that drilling that needs to happen to come under the road. So I'm just thinking, isn't there some kind of a plan that we can come up with that's going to promote more people getting hooked up sooner than later, and maybe just have a period of time that you'd set a flat rate? Everybody could get hooked up for $2,000 if they want to hook up, and use that water line. Right now, it's not really being used to its capacity because it's there, but nobody can hardly use it yet. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mike, did you have a
Melba?
response?
Right. Yep. So what we're working on is almost like a program where it's almost like a loan program or a subsidy program where people, based on their a certain criteria, technical scoring criteria, people are able to apply and be connected and either pay that back or it'd be subsidized through, depending on what they're doing or I guess what their situation is. So I guess more to come on that, Hazel, and very good suggestion. We'll take that into consideration.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, I have Melba, then Wendy, and then and Sherry Lynn, then we'll wrap this up. Go ahead, Melba.
Yes, with Ontario Works having the transition fund, and Sandy Porter had mentioned that individuals can access that funding up to $3,500. Now that was changed some time ago as a result of, I think it was Sherry Lynn bringing it up, that medication, a lot of medication is not covered. So that policy was changed some time ago. And I'm wondering if this water line hookup can be, I guess, considered for funding for those elders that cannot afford it.
So thank you, Melba. And again, the big plan, that's part of the big plan we asked for last year, to put this all together so that we have all the resources, we have a lot of resources in our community Ontario Works being one of them. How are we all working together so that we can offset the cost for seniors, children, Jordan's principal? All of that is being packaged as one. Unfortunately, it's not happening as quick as we like. So thank you, Melba, for your comment. Wendy, then Sherry Lynn, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate everything, but Darren, this is the same group, right? That we're supposed to be working on that overall plan when Jordan's principal, when the surplus money came forward, and we said, a lot of work was going to be done to develop this plan. I didn't think it was going to be based on a scoring system or anything like that. I thought we had agreed to, flat rates across the board, and where possible, just let people hook up. And finding the money to do that. That's what I thought we agreed on. So are we talking about the same plan, or are there two different plans being worked on, one through Public Works and one sort of overall with other departments? Just want to make sure we have clarity on that.
No, that's right. I mean, it is one big plan. That the principle behind and it is developing a program, as I think Hazel kind of characterized it as a program, and looking at the sustainability of the funding. We have Jordan's principle, we have the OW transition funds, we have a big, huge spreadsheet that our consultants have put together with all the different sources of funds to make this happen. And there will be stress points in the future. So we're trying to be creative in terms of, as Mike alluded to, potentially looking at a forgivable loan or a loan portion. And what about the people who have already hooked up out of their own pocket? So all of those considerations are part of that. And it is overdue. It's quite a bit overdue. I understand the consultants have had some other pressures. We had expected it to be done in June. So I do know that it's imminent. We have a meeting of that same planning group that you spoke to, Wendy, within the next, I think it's next week or this week. And then we would like to schedule a meeting with council to present that.
Okay, and Sherry Lynn.
Yeah, I just have a comment, I guess. I know it's awarded to an outside company, and I guess I'm not sure if A6N did apply for this, but if they did, I'm not sure why we're not going with our own company. So I'm just having a hard time understanding why we're going with an outside company, and here we have our own company. So just a comment.
Okay, and so you will see their tender was in there in the package. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we go with the lowest bidder, which is exactly what they did. And they do have Hills Services contracted as part of this bid. It's my understanding, right, Mike?
I don't think it's Hills. It's a different local company though. So we
Oh,
do
okay.
tender. We build in like a local content clause where they need to use certain local companies or local services. And there is a vendor in there that they're using locally. And I think the amount they're using is $100,000 of the actual award of the contract.
Okay. So with that, we have a motion on the table of the water main extension. Do I have oh no, we have a mover. We had a mover. Who was it?
Hazel and Helen.
Hazel and Helen. Okay, so we've had quite a lengthy discussion. Helen, do you have a final question?
I just have a comment. Yeah, I agree with Sherry Lynn. A6N is our company.
Yeah.
Why would we be using an outside company when we have our own company? It doesn't make sense.
Okay,
Michelle, it's Hazel.
comment? Yeah, Hazel, Wendy.
Yeah.
Hazel.
That's a good thought, Helen. In consideration of all the work that Six Nations needs, shouldn't there be a clause within all of the criteria that would say preferably a Six Nations company? Because it's true, we do have to support our native companies. And if this is already done, you can't undo it if they've already been offered a contract, but nevertheless, our last meeting was another matter. Look how we were questioned on community people wanting to be given the work. And I guess that's reasonable. If any of us had a company and we didn't get a chance to have a chance to bid or whatever, I think we'd all feel the same way as the community does. So I think it's a good thing to consider, and going forward that all of the native companies will be not, they have to meet certain criteria in order to be hired, but nevertheless, that they will have a good chance as anyone else. Thanks.
Thanks, Hazel. And Wendy? Final comment?
Yeah, the only comment I wanted to make was that with this motion, can we do some sort of a very clear, very simple communication to community on what's happening and why it's this section of road and the bigger plan as an update?
And Mike, that's possible?
Yeah, we can certainly work to put that out, sure.
Okay. So there were some good comments. Sherry Lynn raised a good point. Okay. So with that in mind, we'll go to a vote. Those in favor to move and approve the award. Those that oppose. 1. Motion is carried. So we had 1 opposition in that vote. Helen, did you want that recorded?
I didn't oppose, I'm the seconder. I was agreeing.
Sorry, I gotta write that down. Alrighty, so no, nobody opposed on that one. Okay, waive second reading. Hazel,
Yes, I moved to waive second reading.
Ellen, do you second? No, you move it in. Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, I think that's all you have today, Mike, so thank you. Okay, let's move right along. I don't see the chief on just yet. And so let's look at number 7, deferred from general counsel. So we needed more information in regards to the ethics applications. So I see the entire applications have been added in your Dropbox. So we'll start with recommendation number 1.
Want me to read it?
Yeah, just because we're in open and people don't have the agenda before them.
My apologies. Here we go. So, sorry, moved by Nathan Wright. Seconder, we're still looking for one. Is that Six Nations Ethics Research Committee recommends to Six Nations elected council to approve actually, we should be changing the motion. This isn't how I would want the wording to be. The title of the research instead of Ashley, Russell, Taylor, and Mark. If we can just change that to approve the title of,
Wastewater surveillance.
well, yeah, I was just going to take the names out and just go right to wastewater and surveillance, SARS, and COVID-2.
Thanks, Nathan. Do I have a seconder? Seconder? Helen? Questions? Audrey?
I would agree with
then
taking the
Wendy.
names out because when we see this later on, we're going to be asking whose ethics thing is this? And I would prefer the names were left in. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
If that's going to happen, put the name, flip it, put the names at the back. The title's the important part, right? If you want to know secondary information, you can put that after, but you should know the title and what we're talking about. So you can just flip this too.
That's fine, just as long as we know who's doing the work. Yeah.
Okay, Wendy?
Yeah, I still have a lot of questions about this. I mean, when I read the application, it is very much two people that are doing this. So it's our fire chief and it's this PhD, I don't know whether they're a PhD or a candidate from University of Waterloo. And, you know, we're constantly hearing how overworked our staff are, especially around COVID and emergency control group. So taking on a research project is huge. So you know, and what is the role? Like we've got a fire chief, we've got, so I don't know, I don't want to cross the line into HR, but as an individual, I mean, this becomes our research project, right? Because it's one of our staff who's conducting that, and that comes back. So we're doing this, we're engaging in this research directly. So what are the liabilities around that? And when I read some of the checklist, and I assume this is ethics, our ethics checklist, does the research involve participation of Aboriginal or Six Nations people who have been selected as research participants because they are North American Indians? What does that mean? What does that say? I mean, it's Aboriginal, Six Nations, all through this. And then when you scroll down, it asks about the use of people's, I'm just looking for it, sorry. It's a use of information and it's left blank. So will the research involve access to individuals, clients, or records required from any organization? And it's yes. So are we approving them to access, you know, client records and organizational records? Because this is marked yes. And then has it been approved from these organizations? And it's blank. And then it goes on to ask about public health and it's no. And so there's inconsistencies with how this is completed, but all of the information will be provided directly through the Six Nations Emergency Management Coordinator and only used for their purposes, scientific publications with written consent of Six Nations. And I guess, and overall the bigger, I mean, there's lots of issues with the actual application, but then what does this mean for us after today? I mean, if this is passed, I mean, looking at SARS in wastewater, so what happens with that? Where's this going? If, you know, how do we communicate this to the community that this is underway and what are the implications to us as a community? If this research is conducted and it comes back that, yes, there is, then what happens? Do we shut down all of our systems? Where's that? Do we have funding for that? Do we have, like, what's in play here? This is bigger than just, I think, saying, yes, let's pass this, at least from my perspective. And if, you know, if I'm out in left field on this, then please let me know. But lots of issues with this and what we're being asked to approve.
Michelle, it's Hazel.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Good questions, very thorough. I do know in sitting at the ethics committee, when the professor presented, he indicated it was tracing, right? So we didn't get into depth of and ask the questions that you've posed. So you bring up some good points. Helen, then Hazel.
I was kind of going to ask the same questions. Like, my question would be, when this research is done, are they going to share it with, say, Public Works or somebody to say, these are the things that we found wrong or that needs attention, or where does it go when it's done? Like, who's it going to benefit? Who are they doing it for? Doing it for themselves? Are they doing it for our community? And I did have a concern when I first read it too, that I seen Ashley was part of this. I've never known council to approve any staff to be part of a big research project. I question if it's going to be interfering with his employment as a fire chief. Because it does sound huge, like Wendy's saying, it's not just a little project for a school assignment or something. This sounds like a huge project, so
Okay, thanks, Helen.
that's my question.
Good points. Hazel? Audrey, I
Yeah,
see you.
I just want to ask in consideration of the fact that Ashley is already an existing full-time employee with council. The employment policy used to have a notation that an employee could only have one position within the organization. So since they're going to be on Six Nation, and this is, I guess, in relation to the Six Nations Council, is this work going to be deemed having a second job with council? Because the policy does not allow that. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Okay, we have a lot of comments and I actually, oh, sorry, Audrey. Audrey, then Wendy, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think there are too many outstanding questions on this. And those were my questions too, is what is going to be done after this is over and done with? If it's meant for Six Nations to find out if there's SARS in our water, what are the implications for that? What's it going to cost? Whose hands is this going to go into? And what work needs to be done? So I think that I would like to recommend that we get those questions answered before this comes back for a vote. I would feel more comfortable knowing what the big picture is for this initiative. And I think that the initiative is very worthwhile. I think it's something that we need to know, but I also know we need to know more. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
And Wendy?
Melba.
Wendy?
Yeah, so, just, there's so many areas, but it references Six Nations Council compliance with Canada Freedom of Information legislation, the data, all of that. So lots of questions. And my last question is, how much money are we receiving to do this research? Because if this is a joint research, then we should be getting funding to conduct this. So I haven't seen any motions saying funding's coming through and from which source. So it's got to be from one of the tri-councils, which one is funding us and for how much. Because right now, fire, as I understand it, runs a deficit. So I'm sure we're getting money to do this in some way. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. And Melba?
Yes, I wanted to say that it's not unusual for some of our staff to be involved in research projects like health services. Quite often when some of these come forward, we do have health involved. And I wanted to say too, like others have said, this is very important and public health agencies are involved in this. And it's my understanding at the end of the project that they will, I guess, certainly discuss and get this information coming forward as this research project progresses. They will get to know what is happening concerning the collection of samples over time. So they're not just going to be sitting there idle. They're going to be discussing these things as the research project proceeds. So I think it's really important that we go forward with this, and I guess we need to ask, as has been mentioned, how much time is this going to take? Because I understand that the gentleman is going to be the contact person. That's what my Ashley Russell Taylor is going to be the contact person. So we need to ask, how much time is this going to take? Because we should not disregard this, and it needs to come forward right quickly, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Michelle,
Thanks,
it's
Melba.
Hazel.
I think we've had enough discussion. There's a lot of questions. So let's defer sorry, I changed my topic here. I think it's number 7. We'll defer 7, recommendation 1, because there are a number of questions, and we will pose those to Mr. Servos very soon. Okay, is everybody good with that? Helen?
Michelle, could we have some, like if it just gets deferred, it most often it just sort of goes flat. Can this go back for discussion, I guess, to get the questions that have been raised here? Just like my question with regard to Ashley about the policy. Employees can't have two jobs. So is it deemed that this is outside of, this research is outside of Six Nation Council employee status? I'm just asking. I think it's a good idea. I agree with Melba that we need to know all of this stuff. But, and here we got somebody that wants to do it, probably beneficial to all of us, but nevertheless, just send it back and bring it back, set a date to bring it back again.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Hazel. And it's been deferred once already, but those questions weren't answered. So, I mean, it does come back. It actually was to us last week. Darren and then Nathan.
Yeah, sure. There should be some actions, obviously. And I know Dwayne is part of this committee. So I think that there's some issues on the checklist. There's some issues on the cross-referencing of policy. And, this speaks to our capacity gap as well, which I've mentioned many times, in bringing in data governance, director for data governance within this community. I mean, and really all we're doing is spinning around. A lot of this is, I agree, it's good information, but what do we do with it? And what are the impacts? So I'll follow up with Dwayne as an action item, but as well, we can answer those specific questions related to this project. I do know that Ashley is also maintaining his role as CEMC until that position is filled. His primary job is fire chief. So as has been noted, he's a contact. But I will also endeavor to follow up with him directly about this in terms of his capacity and how that relates to the policies. So I will bring in Dwayne into the conversation as well.
Okay, thanks, Darren. I see Nathan, Helen, and then Audrey. Nathan?
Yeah, I'm good with deferring this. One of the, I just wanted to bring this forward because it would be good for council to have an understanding again of how we go forward with these, not decisions, but these recommendations. If I recall, Michelle, they came to ethics twice, and we had a lot of questions with the application, and they provided a summary PowerPoint. And actually, we ask all of the applicants to come forward, even before we consider the application, to present by way of a PowerPoint. And a lot of questions get answered at that point. It's that information, it's that exchange that needs to be captured and put forward to council.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something too, in between this time, and I heard Audrey ask for more information. I think a lot of the questions may or may not get answered there, but it is that high level information from a governance perspective that we're looking for. So I'm wondering in the future, as we go forward with these decisions coming to council, if those PowerPoints can form the basis, and then supplement be the summary and supplement be the application, so council can go deep and deep and deep. But I think the high level pieces on the governance side are those PowerPoints. So I think those need to be front and center as part of the information package, and then we cascade down. So that's just my suggestion on these, because I know we went pretty rigid as a committee on Ashley and Mark. But I see that information didn't get put forward. So that's what I'm asking.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Helen?
Yeah, I'm just questioning if any of these are like time sensitive in terms of accessing the funding. I'm pretty sure these fundings must have deadlines. So that would be something we need to consider as well if we're going to defer things, and we need to know if there's a deadline for funding. That's all, that's my comment.
Thanks, Helen and Audrey.
Yeah, my questions are along the lines of Nate. And also that in the motion, it doesn't say that Ashley is a contact. It says that he's on the application. So if he's only a contact, then maybe that needs to be stated in there. And also, I think that we should be having some form of template to go out for questions that need to be asked to the people who are coming to make an application. And one is the risk assessment to it. One is the responsibility of council, and how is it going to help council? And a lot of these things, people get our information and they learn from Six Nations members, but how is it really in fact benefiting us? Why would we approve it? So I'd like to see more questions like that asked and answered, and it makes it a lot easier to approve something. Yeah.
Thanks, Audrey. And we'll take that into consideration because ethics is looking at revamping how they do business. It's been a long time, and hopefully within the next month, we'll be able to start that work. Wendy, and then we'll move on to recommendation number 2.
Yeah, so two comments. First, in the application, I actually list Ashley as managing this project. So just for clarification, that's what the app says. But and then overall, I mean, even on the next one, you know, what if somebody from ethics can just summarize, like, what is the outcome for this? How is it working with community, and what are the benefits to us when this is done? Because I mean, I'm jumping ahead to the next one, Michelle. You know, when we look at cancer care, I mean, we're researched to the nth degree on cancer in the community. And, you know, we keep going to cancer survivors and families, and that's tough work. I mean, as a cancer survivor myself, I mean, you get inundated with all of these things all the time. So, you know, to what end? What's that benefit? And are none of our own services doing this for us to see how we can improve the system? So why do we have the external groups? And I know Alethea Kiwiosh, you know, in the past has come and she's done a lot of work to actually build this unit with Cancer Care Ontario. But so where are we going? It seems like here we are again doing the same process. So to what end?
Mm-hmm. Very good point. And that's what I think that overhaul with ethics is. We need to see what's the impact of community.
Chair, Michelle,
it's
it's
Melba.
Darren.
Appreciate that. Darren and then Melba.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I should put my hand up. I just wanted to make the point that, you know, this goes back to some of the discussion at the retreat about the community plan. And thanks for the comments, Wendy, in terms of anything that we do or approve or review from, you know, the impacts on the governance in the community should always have some sort of a reference to the community plan and the pillars within the community plan. How does this research advance towards reaching those goals? So just some simple, it doesn't have to be lengthy, but, you know, it probably addresses 2 or 3 pillars, each one of these research projects. But, you know, that description would really help us in terms of the investment and then the impact of these approvals.
Thanks, Darren. And then I had Melba.
Yes, it's my understanding that the benefits would be the detection of SARS and COVID-2 with gene fragments, it says in the information, from the wastewater systems to support public health agency to understand community infections. So that's really important. What's next, in other words, with after COVID? What else are we going to suffer from? So I think that's really important. And also with, this must have been discussed at ECG extensively in order for this to go forward, unless I misunderstand some of the connections and how this came about. Can I ask then, anyone that sits there, was this discussed extensively?
Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, Mo. But it was, and it was deferred to ethics after it was discussed, because there is a curiosity, I would say, with the research, but at the same, there was an awareness that it had to go through ethics in the council process.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
with that, we've had a lot of discussion with respect to recommendation 1. We will defer this. I'm sure Darren, Dwayne, you'll work with Ashley and Mark to bring that back. Are we good with that? Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll move forward. So recommendation number 2.
Moved by myself that the Six Nations Ethics Research Committee recommends the Six Nations elected council to approve Elia Urcher's application to conduct research titled Indigenous Cancer Care Unit Impact Assessment.
Do I have a seconder on this ethics app? Audrey, open to questions.
I have a question, Michelle. It's Hazel.
Hazel, then Helen.
Does this coincide with Cancer Care Ontario already with what they do, which includes Six Nations?
It's a good question. It is my understanding it does. And this is where I'm a little, I think everybody comes to Six Nations because there's a potential that they will be researching or engaging with Six Nations band members. And to my understanding, this is in the Hamilton Health Sciences realm. However, there may be the possibility that they are speaking with individuals from Six Nations. Did that answer your question, Hazel?
Yeah, like all research in terms of cancer, which is abundance on our reserve. And I think research to hopefully someday somebody's going to find a magic cure. But I think the more studies you have and the more work, but I think they should kind of link together with what's already existing here in terms of being part of a group that's striving to get the same get to the same point with cancer, and because it is an awful disease and it affects so many of our people. I don't have any problem with it. I guess I'll just make a motion on that to get passed, because you can't have enough study on cancer. Somebody's got to find a cure. Thanks.
Thanks, Hazel. Then I have Helen.
Yeah, I'd written in the chat, I think sometimes a lot of these are theses. People do these for theses. My question, I mean, my concern has always been since I've been sitting here, because I've seen a lot of these things.
Mhm.
I always question, what is it going to benefit us? Like,
Yeah.
we never seem to, we've never gotten, council has never, to my knowledge at least, and I don't remember, but we may have ever gotten any kind of reports on this stuff to say, this is what we found. This is this is our research. This is what we've concluded, or whatever research does. I'm not a research person, so I don't know. So these things all sit somewhere.
Yeah.
I know we say council owns it because we approved it, but we never get to see results of it or where it goes. Like, where's it going to go when it's done? Like, we've never had that. So I've always had concerns with these ethic things because, God, I think we're being studied to death for one thing. But I think a lot of it is student stuff. And then there's free money out there for people. All kinds of free money out there if you want to do research. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Michelle.
But I
You
don't
make
know.
a
I
good point, Helen,
just-
on closing the loop, because since I've been sitting at ethics, I've actually only seen one ethics report come back, and she started
That's what
in
I mean. It's,
2012.
they don't hardly
And
ever
so-
come back to us to report on whatever there was they did. So I don't know.
So that's the only one I've seen to date, but I mean, Melba, you've sat there, you probably have a lot more. They do submit their presentation, and it's my understanding, just because I'm going through the process, when I'm done, I'm to present to ethics, and they have their annual, as part of community awareness, they have poster presentations and presentations that are shared with the entire community, so everybody knows and closes the loop on the research. And then it's my understanding the research is housed at records. But yeah, it never seems to come back to full council.
Michelle, it's
Wendy?
Hazel.
Wendy first, and then Hazel.
Thanks, Michelle. I think understanding research is a big part of this. So Helen's right, like some are thesis, but I think it's important to note that if it's somebody who's working on their PhD and needs doing this work, and particular community members, if they're working on their PhD, then that's something entirely different. What a number of these projects are, like University of Waterloo and even this one, when I look at it, I'm making the assumption that this is somebody who's applied to, CIHR for funding, and they've been granted funding to do this work. And there's a lot of money associated with those funding grants coming through. That's what universities do. That's their business. That's what a lot of health agencies do. That's part of their business in doing this big research. On this one in particular, it states that data will be collected in the community and locations as directed by our community partners. The data collection and research will be undertaken by staff from the Indigenous Cancer Care Unit at Ontario Health. Research Ethics Board approval has been granted by the University of Toronto. This work is supported and guided by Joint Ontario Indigenous Cancer Committee. In other communities, when applicable, Chief and Council approval was provided, as well as ethics approval. So this is a research project. I don't think this is student focused, and this is very much under Ontario Health. It looks like University of Toronto. It looks like there are other entities involved. And this is my understanding. This is about patient care. This isn't in doing research to look for a cure for cancer. This is patient care and how to support patients. Thanks.
It's Melba.
Wendy. Hazel, Nathan, and then Melba.
Yeah, I just want to suggest that for any of these types of requests to do research on Six Nations, that there should be a template form that specifically outlines how at the end of these research projects, the findings, how Six Nations is going to be addressed. Say, for instance, if you find something negative, there should also be some solutions provided within the context of that research on what should be done, and not just a paper that we're finished now and it goes on a shelf and we don't really know what the findings were. I think Six Nations Council needs to develop a template of expectation that they want from everybody and anybody that's asking to do a research project here. I think that'll provide us the feedback, the information that we should know. And as it pertains to everybody's health, that's what all of these research projects seem to be leaning towards. I think it's not a bad thing to do research. And if they have all the money to do it, let them do it and pay for it. But they give us back answers to questions that this council expects them to provide for the benefit of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Nathan?
Yeah, I agree. Across the board with the templates and the checklist, and that's the work we're looking to undertake. We just haven't got to it by way of policy. And back to Darren's point, we don't have that data, staff person that's driving this work. Same with environment, right? There's a part-time staff person driving to work. So that's a consideration going into it. I think this is a really good conversation because it arms Michelle and I in that policy discussion to make these changes. And that's something too that we've earmarked. I think there is that need for that policy session sooner rather than later that we keep talking about at ethics, and to make these adjustments. In a lot of ways, if you look at the application, that template's already there. It's in the checklist. It's just not glaring. And those are the things we've noticed and talked about and identified as items of needing to change. So I'm just, providing comments at the high end, and we really need to, my suggestion, and it will be at ethics, is we stop approving applications until, we get this work done on the policy side to ensure the checklists are done and to ensure that the information flow from ethics to council has everything in it, because I think those PowerPoints are so important because it has a lot of these high level governance questions already contained in there. So I'll just leave my comments there for now, but this discussion for us and arming us into the next policy piece.
Yep. Good recommendation, Nathan. I have Melva, Helen, and then Sherry Lynn.
Yeah, Wendy has already mentioned that this specific that we're talking about is Cancer Care Ontario for Indigenous people, Indigenous care. And I think in plain language, what they've mentioned is the aims are to improve, as Helen and Hazel had mentioned, what is being done, how successful are we with what has been happening so far. And so they are looking at what has improved over the years and what continues to be a barrier of the cancer journey from prevention to end of life, cancer and kidney. So they want to update the impact assessment so communities will better understand where we're at concerning our cancer and kidney. And they're going to do research by phone, in person, and focus groups, is my understanding. Thanks.
Thanks, Melva. Helen?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of sway the topic a little bit toward deferrals. I understand these were all deferred from a council meeting that I wasn't at. So I don't know why they were all deferred. I'm assuming because you had too many questions. But here we are today, we got all these questions and it's getting deferred again. So I'm looking to Darren here. I think when we defer anything, any topic we defer, there should be an action item at the bottom. This is why it was deferred and this is what the information that we want. Because we're not, we have questions. So there should be an action item at the bottom of every deferral. And when it comes back to council, we should have our questions answered and we should be able to approve it instead of continually deferring everything all the time. See, we defer things and then it comes back to council and nothing was done. I don't know if this is any different than when you deferred it the first time, because I wasn't there. So I don't know whether there's more information or whether things had been done that you asked for. I don't know that, but there should have been, because now we're deferring it again. And we've been doing that a lot, deferring a lot of things, but we don't, when it comes back to us, we still have the same questions. We still have the same issues. So there needs to be some kind of action item at the end of a deferral to say, this is what we want when it comes back to council. And then we'll be able to approve it. And that's probably for Darren to look into, because we defer a lot. And like
Thanks,
I said, when
Helen.
it comes back to council, nothing's changed.
Thanks,
still the
Helen. And just to
same.
give you some background, we were given the paragraph, and so full council didn't know everything, and we weren't able, as the ethics committee, to answer all the questions that were posed, hence why the deferral. And there's still questions. So your action item, I think we started to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not just
that
referring to the ethics, I'm referring to any deferral that we make. It
Yep.
should have action items at the bottom.
Thanks, Helen. Darren, and then we're going to go to Sherry Lynn, and then we're going to wrap this up and see. I do think we can look at recommendation 3 and 4. There is information there. Darren?
Yeah, just quickly, and I agree that there should be some action. I think one of this in particular with ethics, there was, I think someone raised, I think it was you, Helen, about there might be funding deadlines. So, I mean, there's a broader piece of work here related to the specific process that these projects are brought forward, and Nathan spoke to that very well. I think that that's an ongoing exercise, but there may be, in terms of the recommendations before us today, there may be some time considerations on funding. So we may need to look at that and look at decisions on one or two of the ones that are before us. But across the board, I agree. It's something that we've tried in the past, and it's kind of fallen away. But I think it's important that at least there's an update that's provided, even if we're not in a position to make a decision. It shouldn't come back until it's ready for a decision, unless there's a time constraint. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Sherry Lynn?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, what do we want researched on, and put it out there. I'm not sure how it would work or whatever, but make it work for us. We sit here and dance around, and you're right. I haven't heard back many reports back. So again, what is our plan, and what do we want research on? So I think put it back to, let's get them work for us.
Good point, Sherry Lynn. And I do think that that's exactly what we should be doing. Full council look at where they want research to go, and go that route, plus have that framework developed. So with that, we are deferring number 2. And what about recommendation number 3? This is in regards to the seed time capsule. Is everybody in the same realm of deferring this? Do you have a lot of questions? Wendy?
Yeah, this one I don't quite understand, but what I can decipher, it sounds like it's just between a community member directly and U of M. And if that's what it is, I mean, it's between the two of them. I don't see the impact to the community on this one. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that actually at ethics, we had this discussion because even the researcher indicated, because it's research, she has to come through this route. Everybody's saying go through ethics. And so we were trying to even figure out, do you really need ethics? Like, I really don't know the impact you're putting, not to minimize it, but it's looking at seeds, working with a community member to get those seeds and to put them in a time capsule.
Yeah, this is almost a business transaction for me. I mean, I don't have any issue with it. But.
So others? Nathan?
Yeah, I feel the same way on this one as Wendy. The information's there, it's complete, and it would be good from the standpoint of looking at the work that's being done to consider this one going forward. Because Wendy's right, it's more a business transaction where seeds are being taken from the territory for research, and going forward on that matters too. So. I don't see the impact to the community, but I do see the work and where they want to go with it. So I'm prepared to move this one if folks are okay.
Okay, moved by Nathan. And excuse me, do I have a seconder? Helen?
I'll second with a comment.
Your comment?
We've done time capsules before. I don't know where they are, but I know that we did time capsules. So I'm just here. I hope people remember where they put them.
Oh, I think we should have a tracking of those. So we have a mover and a seconder. Is there any other questions? If not, we're going to a vote. All in favor? Does anybody oppose? Hearing and seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Okay, we're moving to recommendation number 4. Do I have a mover?
I'll move.
Wendy, you're gonna second?
No, I'm gonna declare conflict on this.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry. Nathan, you're moving. Do I have a seconder? Sorry, I wasn't looking. Sherry Lynn, you'll second? Okay, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody oppose? Motion is carried. Alrighty, so we've deferred 1 and 2, approved 3 and 4. So we don't have to waive second reading on 3 and 4, correct?
I think so.
Okay, do we have someone who's willing to move?
I'll waive second reading on those ones.
Sherry Lynn, go ahead, and second by Nathan. All in favor? And Wendy still has her conflict. And I should declare the conflict on 4, but I'm not voting. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. That was some good discussion with respects to ethics, and I really do think the full council needs to come together to discuss this as we move forward. And we'll take that forward, the recommendations, Melvin, Nathan, to tomorrow's meeting, because I see 1 application on there. Okay, let's move right along. I'm not sure who's speaking to number 8. I don't see. Oh, okay. Bonnie, I assume. Taylor? Helen? Helen, you're on mute.
Moving on 8. Just a matter of getting permit to get their demolition stuff to the Haldeman County landfill site, as far as I can see.
Okay, I have a mover. Helen, do I have a seconder?
Sorry.
A seconder?
I'll second it. Melba.
Seconded by Melba. Questions?
I have a question, Michelle. It's Hazel.
Okay, go ahead, Hazel, then Wendy. Go ahead, Hazel.
Whereabouts is this location?
It's just Hazel, just on the outside of Hagersville, within the Holloman tract. It's
Oh,
75 acres of primarily agricultural land.
okay.
Thanks, Hazel. Wendy?
Yeah, my only question was, shouldn't B be first and then A? Should we investigate the retention of a firm, because if there's any other permits that we need, anything like that, once we get that, and then apply for the permits?
Well, I was going to bring it back to the SAO. I talked to Matt at the corporation. He said A6N can do this no problem. So I was going to see whether they could do it for and what price, and then bring it back to the SAO for approval.
Oh, sounds like all right.
If I can.
Go ahead,
But
Wendy.
we have a process for this, and it should go through the SAO, right? Not through economic development. And we have a process for tendering and whatnot to do this.
Yeah, well, it wasn't going through economic development. It wasn't going through economic development. It was going to go through get approved, just investigate to see what the price was and take it to the SAO to see whether he's okay with it.
Chair, if I can finish my comment.
Okay, hold on here. Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask Darren, just in terms of process, just for clarity. Thanks.
Go ahead, Darren.
All right, yes, that's exactly what will happen. It'll be, it'll have to come through, depending on the amount. Obviously, we have a tendering policy, so it'll depend on the amount, but obviously, we'll have to go through that process that we normally go through. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so we will wait for that process, then it'll come forward. Is that what happens? Is that what you're saying, Darren?
I think it's for information. There is a request to have it done. So I guess I'm just looking at, again, I'm gonna pull up the briefing note again here. Yeah, I think is there a time sensitivity to this, Lonnie?
No, it's not, no time sensitivity. It's just, we
We'll
should
just
get
go
it
through
done
it,
in
then
due
we'll go through
course.
and we'll defer and we'll go through the process. And to Kellen's point, there are action items related to this deferral.
Yep. Thanks, Darren. It's very similar to what we do in BNI, right? So Mike does all that work before it comes to us. We don't
That's right.
go backwards. Okay. Helen, you have a question?
No, I just have a comment. I don't even know why it's here.
That's
Should have just
exactly
went to
what-
the SAO, so I'll move on this. Because it's
No.
here.
No, we're deferring it because it shouldn't be here. So there's a process in
So
place.
but if we
Lonnie
defer it,
will
that
follow
means
that process.
if we defer it, that means it has to come back.
Well, yeah, it'll come back with all the information, right? That we can actually make a sound decision on.
We don't need to make a decision on it. This is administration.
Then it goes back to Lonnie.
So
and
we
Darren,
shouldn't
and looks
defer it.
after
We
you.
should just take it off.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, when you defer
That's
something, it
like-
has to come back to council.
Darren said it's for information, so that's what I
Right.
should have said. So thank you. So I don't believe, and I'm looking at my list, there was any additions. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I miss somebody? You know what had additions? So with that, that's our agenda for today. I need someone to motion to adjourn. Sherry Lynn, moved by Sherry Lynn, second by Wendy. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, community, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.